right. Looks like we're live. Looks like we're streaming. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone out there that's been patiently waiting for us. We've got some special things for you today. We are again joined by Eric Stoddard as well as a couple of others. And today we'll be talking about form exploration in Gravity Sketch. And so Eric's going to be giving us a great demo on approaching just creating forms through different processes and workflows in Gravity Sketch in a really rapid manner and maybe in a way that can help you break out of your mold creatively or break out of your traditional style. These are maybe some techniques that'll inspire you to create some new shapes. So, if you haven't seen me before, my name is Jaren Dorman, and I'm the design community manager at Gravity Sketch, and I get to connect with all of you out there in the community. And it's a pleasure to meet amazing designers like Eric, as well as a few others that we're joined by today. But without further ado, Eric, I'm sure there's some people watching that haven't seen you before or don't know who you are. So if you could just introduce yourself, and then if Henrik and Jesse, if you guys can introduce yourselves after Eric, that'd be great.
Great. Hi, my name is Eric. I am automotive design consultant with Gravity Sketch. I come from a pretty long career in the automotive industry, and I've always loved to learn new tools and new techniques in order to jumpstart my creative process, especially when it comes to form development. And whenever you just sketch day after day after day, designers often have the tendency to lock into certain shapes and forms that they just naturally sketch well. And to break out of that, and to start to create something new that you've never done before, I've often employed just unusual techniques in order to discover new shapes, new forms, new design languages. And so when I first started using Gravity Sketch a couple of years ago, I first approached it as more of a modeling tool where where I would bring in a 2D sketch and I would execute this three-dimensional version of it. So I would come in going after a very specific design vision and just executing it and crafting it. But as I began to learn more and more about Gravity Sketch and what it could do, I began to start to use it more and more as a sketch tool, as what we're called Gravity Sketch. So it's really designing and creating directly in 3D. And so I wanted to show you some really cool techniques that I've been using to come up with just quick ideas in 3D space directly in 3D. And so, so I've also, this time we've invited guests to join us directly in collab. So if you're watching us on YouTube, great. Keep watching and feel free to ask questions in the chat. And then we have some special guests who've joined us ahead of time who are going to be just observing directly in collab. And you guys feel free to kind of follow along and just watch, or if you want to try some of the techniques and tricks yourselves, that's great as well.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, this is Jesse. I'm also in the design industry and longtime observer of effort in Gravity Sketch. I'm very interested looking at how I might be able to apply some of the communication techniques in form development.
Very cool.
Nice. And my name is Henrik, and I am a recent graduate on automotive and transport design from Coventry University. And I came across Gravity Sketch about a year ago, where it now is probably my main design tool and modeling. I did most of my final major project in Gravity Sketch, which made it possible for me to do something much more complex than if I had to use Alias or Rhino or something else, because it's so intuitive. And then I'm obsessed with designing things that create new experiences and maybe make life better or more fun within transportation.
That's great.
Yeah.
Very cool. Anyway, so without further ado, do you want to go ahead and get into VR?
Sounds great.
Go ahead. Okay. So I just started with a mannequin, and we need to start with some sort of basis in human scale, right? In 1-to-1 scale. So this is a 1-to-1 scale mannequin.
Hey,
So it just
so
gives
we're
us-
still using audio and meets, I think, right? So are you guys unmuted?
I am muted in Gravity Sketch.
Eric, I
but
can't hear you at all in meets.
Oh,
I can easily hear Eric.
okay. You
I
hear
can
me?
hear everything.
Okay. Okay, they can hear me.
No, I can't hear you.
Oh, that's weird.
I can hear you in VR though.
Okay, let me just check my audio here. Yeah, my audio settings are set to the speakers, the PC.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
I got you.
Okay, you hear me now?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, great, awesome, very good. So, yeah, as I was saying, we just having a mannequin in space is really important to give a sense of scale. This is a 1-to-1 mannequin. I might go ahead and put him in a driving position, maybe. Assuming that we're going to be doing some kind of a driven vehicle. But again, I don't want to be too prescriptive right off the bat because I want to be able to discover something really cool. But so a lot of times I'll just go in starting with a general idea of what I want to do. And so I'm thinking of doing something really cool and off-road, like some kind of a planet roving off-road vehicle. And so I'm going to show you guys. I'll put this on a layer, and so I'll keep the layer locked so I can just keep it stable, keep it steady. And so I wanted to start with the volume brush. This is a really cool tool, and I'm going to turn on my reflective materials. The volume brush it's like drawing a three-dimensional shape. So if you just start to freely sketch forms and shapes, you get some really interesting interesting faceted forms. And yeah, it does lend itself to a very sort of naturally faceted shape, but as you can see, I'm very quickly starting to extract a bit of a theme from it, and where I'm starting to see this dominant line forming. And so as I'm adding and subtracting points and pushing and pulling, you can see I'm starting to get a sense of form and direction. So if I push this point out, now I can start to see this a line tracking more this way. You can see how very quickly I've created something that I just never would have sketched. So one of the other cool things you can do with volumes, you can turn on polar symmetry. And so I'm gonna create a set of like really funky off-road wheels. Maybe I'll give them so I'm gonna change my axis here and just start to create this kind of random set of wheels. And I can edit in real time. So let's say I want more spokes. I can just change the polar symmetry, and you can see it's I'm adding spokes. It's just multiplying them.
This is kind of a recent addition, I think, to Gravity Sketch, the ability to um, have radial symmetry for volume, for the volume tool. And yeah, it's a really cool, I think a really great addition. I mean, I think sometime last year.
Yeah, it
So
looks much easier to control now than it was previously.
And so let's say I'm this is kind of a planetary vehicle, so I'm not going to have traditional tires. I'm gonna have these you know non pneumatic, non air filled tires that are just on a skeletal structure.
This is very interesting. It's kind of like a wheel in a lunar vehicle.
Yeah, and as for everybody watching, as mentioned before, if you have any questions for Eric, for myself, about the tool, about Eric's process, feel free to just put it in the chat there, and we'll be happy to answer your questions.
Maybe I'll give the spokes a bit of a reflective material. Actually, I think it definitely looks, I think, more exciting as a dark material, and then the stays. Yeah. We can continue to experiment with the spoke count. So if I just go back into edit mode, I can change the number of spokes. 6 or 7. 6 or 7, yeah, that's good. If I can go all the way up to 12. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Yeah, so you go 3. Actually, that's kind of cool. May I go with 3 spokes, and it starts to become really, really interesting. But and then just fill. Fill the gaps a bit.
I think this might be a question for you, Eric. What's your favorite tool in Gravity Sketch?
Yeah, well, if I'm just like doing this kind of creative work, I love this volume brush. I tend to think in volumes, so versus going into lines. So so I definitely love the volume brush, as you can see. And then when I get into actually executing a model, I'll use sub D.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and I can confirm from Scott Robertson, he says 3 spokes.
3. He likes the 3, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just kind of making this up, but yeah, this is starting to look a bit more planetary. Maybe thin these up a little bit. This wheel might be looking a little bit ridiculous. Actually, I like this darker. It's pretty cool. So now you see the darker tire and the darker wheel. Okay, so what I might do is group all this, and then using the scale tool, just shrink it down a little bit. And maybe bring it in just a little bit. Now we can just duplicate it. We stagger it out a little bit. Now we can go back in with, let's say, we have this kind of exterior shell, and now we just need to create the chassis for this thing, the underbody. I'm going to turn off polar symmetry and start to create sort of this underbody support. You see, I'm constantly adding and subtracting points, and it just changes the shape in unexpected ways. And I'm like, oh, that works. That looks nice. Let's go with that. And so it's just a constant process of iterating. And create this kind of underbody shield.
Yeah, that's one of the really fun things about the volume tools is the more points you add or points that you subtract, it kind of, you get this immediate sort of cycling of new shapes to play with.
Yeah, exactly.
See, someone asked about how to get these videos like this live in VR, and from what I can read, transmuter, your answer seems to be sufficient. That's kind of what I was going to say, which is just you can pin windows if you're tethered. If you're using a Rift, you're tethered to your computer. You can actually pin a desktop window and just play these videos in YouTube and pin them if you like. I'm not sure about those kinds of options if you're using a Quest, unfortunately.
So you can see I'm creating kind of a rear suspension, kind of 3D printed rear suspension.
So what type of vehicle did you say you're going for with this, Eric? You said there's some kind of like terrestrial, like
yeah, it could be
off-road.
something like planetary rover. Could be like a polar exploration. I don't know, just something really cool and capable. And so now I'm kind of creating an inner shell for the occupant. This is an interesting one. As I pull the graphic out, it just sort of separates.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, the rear section. So
Quite a nice feature.
yeah. So now I'm bringing that volume down beneath the occupant, and it's starting to close out the very bottom of the vehicle. I'm just adding points further along to see what it's going to take to close it.
I wanted to highlight that bit just really quick too, in case anybody was just joining, that Eric is just adding points basically to this volume object, and so it's just creating these really fast forms. I can even show here. I just drew this form, and if I go into edit mode, if I just continue adding points, you can see how the volume grows. And so this is what Eric is doing, is just manipulating these points and growing it. I just wanted to make that clear for everybody watching in case it was kind of hard to see that. It's awesome.
I'm just adding a bit of a nose cone to this thing. And then, so I'm gonna start to add some glass to this thing. So I'm kind of thinking of this as like I said, this is like something that's designed to operate in a zero atmosphere environment or a highly hostile atmosphere environment. So I'm just kind of just kind of concepting out the window graphic. You know, maybe I can give that some form as well.
Yeah, just getting some interesting graphical breakup. And these tires look like they could go through anything.
You know, maybe I want to give this thing more of a graphic read, so I can actually give it a flat shader. Like that. So graphically, I'm not sure I like this entirely. So what I might do is just do a couple of variations. You know, we can just experiment all day. Actually, I do like this triangulated approach.
Whoa, that looks pretty cool for a second without the canopy over. The when you deleted that looked kind of cool actually.
That's looking kind of interesting.
Yeah.
There we go.
So, Eric, how long would you spend on a design like this? How long would you go like this on a concept before you move on to the next step? And my follow-up question to that would be, what would be the next step to this?
Well, the next step. Well, first of all, I'm going to try to wrap this up in a few minutes here and go on to the next one. But that's looking pretty interesting.
Like I guess the question is like when do you consider it done? Is it like when you pretty much have all the forms mostly expressed? Like you're not worried too much about precision at this point, right?
Right, and it really depends on what my end goal is, and we'll get into that a little bit. But and a lot of times my goal is to spit out some screenshots and then use this as an underlay for some renderings in 2D, right? In Sketchbook
Very
Pro
cool.
or Procreate.
The side view is like insanely cool. Yeah, it's probably my favorite view of this one. It's really, really nice.
Yeah, super like very aggressive stance it has.
Yeah, it's just nice with the volume tool because constantly you get those happy accidents where something unique just happens.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to take the same occupant. So let's put a pin in this one, and then let's take the same occupant and do something completely different. Maybe I'll rotate him into a more aggressive driving position.
David Neal, it looks like it says you've been using the surface tool and then thickening it to create window graphics. Yeah, that's another great way to do it. And that's another thing you'll find as well is that there's so many ways to explore and to create things in Gravity Sketch. And so that's what we're hoping to do today is to show you just another example of how to approach designing something.
Yeah, actually, well, before I do the next one, what I could do is just show you is just taking the same one, doing a duplicate of it and doing another variation. So maybe we just get right back into maybe instead of doing a these sort of triangulated panels, we start taking the main shell and we go dark with it, and if I just offset it a little bit from the body color, you can see, look at that. I mean, it just becomes a totally different animal.
Interesting yellow.
Yeah, and then of course I can just play with the geometry a bit, and I'm still getting this kind of triangulated graphic, and just responding to whatever I see. So that's a much more sort of dynamic statement.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then maybe I duplicate it again, make it body color again, and this time I delete away parts of it, and set it back down.
Oh, that's cool.
And I can tighten up the edges too. And I'm able to control the graphic relationship between these various layers. So now you can see I've got this really interesting shape going on in the back. That's a very different statement.
Yeah.
So let's try another like a totally different vehicle, and
I did this cage down here too, Eric, just for fun.
Oh yeah, yeah, awesome.
um, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just trying to grab the mannequin here, and somebody moved it up. Okay, so let's try something completely different. Let's say I want to do a kind of more of a sports car, and I want to give it a much softer, more sculpted form. So I'll make this a much more aggressive driving position. Just grab the knees here and spread the knees forward, and bring it lower to the ground. So his hip to heel is basically 0. There, that's better. And I'm going to start with a sub D cube. So as many of you know, I'm a big fan of working in sub D and starting with the ribbon stroke tool, but sometimes when I'm in form discovery mode, I'll just start with a cube or a primitive, and you can see I'm just bringing it more into scale with the occupant here. And so we got a bit of a bathtub here. But if I turn subdivision levels on, I basically have an egg, right? So so starting with an egg, or maybe I go a step further and I start with a tube. And if I cut the front and back off of this thing, I have basically a tube. Now I can just stretch it out, and let's see, let's make it more of a front engine proportion. So now I can just start adding edge loops and starting to play with the silhouette of the vehicle. And then the more edge loops I add, the more opportunity I have for form development. So you can see now all of a sudden I have this very sort of sculpted, soft body side.
Wow, that's crazy how fast that even just that came together.
Yeah. And I can continue tapering the ends. If I just add additional edge loops, I can just taper the ends in a bit. And I can make our crisp edges appear and disappear. So now it's starting to have a bit more of a chiseled quality to it. before we get too far, we definitely want to get some wheels on this thing to start to get a sense of, what is this thing sitting on. But so what I'll do is I'll go back in again with the volume tool, turn the polar symmetry on to, let's just start with 5 spokes and see what we get. And let's just start. Start putting some spokes together. Maybe we try more spokes. This is more like a turbine design. You see how the shapes change.
And are you thinking this might be like an open wheel concept, Eric, or is this just to kind of block in what you want? There's just sort of like a blocking in.
Yeah, right now I'm just trying to get a sense of just a general sense of proportion.
Okay.
So maybe I'll get a little bit more specific and put a tire on this thing. Getting a nice relationship on these spokes.
David Neal suggests that you make it an open wheel concept like old Formula cars.
Oh, cool. All right.
If you want.
Oh, maybe we can do both. So you can see I'm just constantly experimenting with the wheel design.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. Maybe I can even add an additional element. Now, these spokes are still looking a little bit doughy. So what I can do is I can shrink the point size, and add additional points. I can get something very, very crisp. So I'm going to group this, and this might be a little ridiculous, the size of this wheel. So I'm gonna shrink it down a little bit. That's looking pretty cool.
If you would add more elements to the wheel, is there then any way then that you can snap it to it? Because now your sensor is a different place.
Yeah.
or is it
So
more just like eyeballing it to the
you have to
center?
eyeball it. And so what I'll do is a lot of times I'll leave a. You can see how I built the tires so that you can see where the center is.
Ah,
I
yeah. So there's like
it a little bit, so that way
a mark in the middle.
I can realign my my realign my axis.
Yeah, but it
Yeah.
doesn't snap to that axis, or
Yeah, it doesn't snap, but you can realign it pretty well.
yeah. Nice.
David Neal, to answer your question, yes, it is the drawing hand joystick. David Neal was asking how you shrink the points in the volume tool, and that's using the joystick, right? Right, Eric?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's so now you can see I have a very different form language than the off-road vehicles. And maybe I can do a couple variations of this. And just keep sketching. Maybe I just start. Maybe I want to get a little bit more angular with this thing. Start pushing and pulling points.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Then have closed rear wheels and free front wheels.
Yeah, maybe it becomes like this semi-enclosed rear wheel design. Again, because I went into this without a plan, right, without a preconceived vision, I'm just allowing the forms to change and see, just see what happens. It's just experimentation. Maybe I want to change the side view proportion of this thing to something more hot rod like. And what's surprising is actually starting to become more like the volume brush. The more I add geometry to it.
Yeah, it does.
So I've got a question, Eric.
Yeah.
You could get a shape like this, and for example, you could kind of layer what you did in the other ones for the DLO.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to cut out a shape, what's the best way to separate a surface on here?
Yeah. So it's a good question. So I'm gonna go back to the smooth one, and because that's always the hardest thing to do is separate glass from the body. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll start off by I'll add a few more edge loops just to get kind of define what I want the shape to be, and I'm going to duplicate this, change it to a different material, and then I'll just go ahead and just delete away what I don't want.
I see.
And then I'll just do the same thing I did. I'll just do the reverse of that.
And I think we are looking into an actual solution for this, like in a tool, at some point as well. where that this process of splitting off surfaces is a little more fluid.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
This is a great time save, though. I mean, it really simplifies it.
It's quite
So-
cool just being open as well.
Yeah, it is kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually like that.
I wanted to show you just the thicken tool. So if I take a subdy surface and go to edit mode, I can add thickness to it, which comes in really handy when I want to do glass and body separation, because now I can just take the glass down, and I don't have to worry about perfectly matching the glass to the body, because in a real car the glass is always slightly offset from the body. So now what I can do is I can bring the glass down and just intersect it with that thickness. And
Yeah. Smart.
Get a chamfer to build into.
Yeah, exactly. So
Hey, Eric, David Neal's asking about a curve on surface sketching tool. Could you demo that, or just show how you can do something like that?
yeah, I'll show you how I do cut lines. Give me a moment here just to tune this up a little bit. But that's a pretty comprehensive. You can see how closely I was able to match the original surface by using the thicken tool to create that slight lip, that slight offset between the glass and the body that all vehicles have. I can make it even smaller and tighter, right? I can make it quite close to flush. But no car is truly flush in the glass body. So it actually gives you a little bit of realism.
Yeah, especially with that highlight it creates all around.
Yeah. Now let's say I want to. I think I want to get the proportion of this thing a little more elegant. I'm thinking of this more as a luxury vehicle. So I can. What I did was I selected both volumes, both objects, and I'm able to edit them simultaneously. So you see, by lengthening the back end, I have this much more elegant statement. Maybe the front end gets a little bit higher. Maybe a little bit wider. No, I'm not sure. Just give me a little bit more length. So that's starting to have a really elegant luxury car flavor, but in a totally new way. That's not like your typical rear drive sedan. This is something that in the electric and autonomous future you have. You don't have to depend on the length of the hood to define elegance or power, right? You're defining on other elements that balance each other. that's looking really, really elegant. And then as far as things like shut lines, one of the things that I do is I take the stroke tool, I go into point mode, and I'll select a flat material. Maybe go all the way to black, and I'll keep the line really thin. And in point mode, I'll be able to that's a little thick. Let me thin it down a bit more. So in point mode, I'm gonna just start to sketch out what I think I want the door to look like. And then in edit mode, I can turn on snap. And by snapping the point, I can literally snap the points to the surface, and they stick to the surface like tape. It's like drawing, putting tape lines on the surface. You can see with not a lot of control points, it's going to actually go below the surface. So I just have to add a few extra points to get the line to pop up above the surface again. And then I'm just literally just sticking tape to the surface.
I think also, just to further answer your question there, David, is there is the projection mode as well, which I don't know if this is what you were asking about, but where you actually can draw on a surface. Basically, it's projecting your strokes onto any object, really. Although there's less control with this, I would say the way Eric's doing it is probably a better way, because you have more control over how the curve is going around the surface and control the amount of points. But it is like a really fast way of drawing strokes onto things.
So, yeah, since this is a form study, I'm not really all that concerned with perfection. So I'm just kind of laying it on the surface. I'm just thinking of this thing as like a giant gull-wing door. And then let's say I did want to put fenders on this thing. At that point, I can just quickly add in sub D ribbon stroke. I'm gonna go back to my body color here, and I want these fenders that kind of look like sails. And I'm just going to organize my topology here, so I can basically delete out the wheel opening.
Oh, so you just made a new edge loop around the wheel opening.
Yeah. So now I'm actually pulling the surface out.
There's a smart way to handle that.
I'm not exactly sure how these fenders are going to intersect with the main body, but what I'm going to do is just put a hem flange here. So I'm just extruding a little flange in there. I'm just going to put a tight edge. Just adding a couple extra edge loops to tighten it up. Now I have this nice little hem flange here around the wheel. And I'm just trying to work this fender line so that it's speaking with the belt line. You can see that the highlights now are starting to talk to the main body side.
Mm.
A little bit of positive section on there. But then what I can do is I can add some thickness to that. And then go on and do the front one. Maybe the front one is a semi-open design, so it's just kind of a flag that exists behind the front wheel.
Would you consider how these fenders are attached to the main body at this stage, or is it more only just like form exploration and then the functional part comes in later on?
Yeah, I'm just figuring it out as I go. I mean, that's the whole point. I did not, I didn't have a car. I didn't have a picture of a vehicle in my mind at all. When I started, I'm purely exploring at this point.
Yeah, then all the other functionalities can be sorted out later on.
Exactly.
It's pretty amazing in the span of about an hour, we already have, 6 iterations of vehicles, 2 of them, basically 2 vehicle styles, but 6 iterations that we can work off of. It's pretty amazing the speed that you're able to arrive at just a bunch of different ideas.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like the initial sketches for 2 completely different projects.
Yeah.
Yeah, this I think for me, what the most interesting part of all this is that since you can get the sensation that you're in the room at 100% scale. It's like very compelling to think about the product that way.
Yeah, then you can go inside and sit in the interior and see if you can reach to the steering wheel and assess all of those elements as well. Very effectively.
And you can just go on and on and on, but this is starting to look like something that they might have imagined in the 1950s or 60s.
There's a little George Barris in there. It's cool. Maybe more of a Kalani sculpture.
especially with the bubble kind of windshield. It's very cool.
So, what if we wanted to? How are we doing on time, by the way?
We are. Looks like we're about
10 past 8.
at an hour.
Okay. Well, we can. We don't have to go on too much longer, but yeah, I just wanted to, just give you guys some really quick, form exploration ideas. I love the volume tool for getting these really chiseled shapes. I think there's some really cool stuff happening with this. I could go in and sometimes I'll do screenshots and I'll just put like a motion blur on it, which will soften it up a bit. So if I want to explore a softer version of it, I can do that. But if I want to keep it chiseled and really structured, I can do that as well. And then with sub D, I can just, if I want to do these softer shapes, I can really just push and pull points and get super fluid.
Yeah, this is awesome work, Eric. This has been really informative on how to just like use the different tools in Gravity Sketch, and might I say, very basic, simple tools. Not really all that many things here, and create, a pretty solid like base to work off of for sketching, as you mentioned. I mean, I think the tools you used here was volume tool, symmetry as like a mode, I guess, and like sub D, maybe like the revolve tool for the tires. But like, I mean, that's pretty much it. Not really that many tools, and it's just they let you do so much. And starting with the mannequin for proportions, so you can really ground your designs as well, as you were showing. And I hope everybody out there watching just has seen what's possible with just a few simple tools in Gravity Sketch, and just willingness to push and pull shapes around and all that. Were there any final questions that anybody had out there before we kind of sign off for today?
No. Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. This was good.
Yeah.
I got a really good sense of the tool.
Yeah, thank you both for joining. I also meant to say that.
Yeah. And if we do this again next month, I definitely would like to get into some more interior focused demonstrations, because I think as you said, being able to get a sense in human scale of what the interior environment is doing, where everything is being placed, is one of the huge crowning achievements of Gravity Sketch.
Yeah, that's one thing I want to mention. We're going to be doing more of these live demos with Eric, focusing on different things like interior, like you just mentioned. So please be on the lookout for further announcements as to when those will be happening. Roughly once a month is what we're shooting for these. So yeah, be on the lookout for announcements on future demos. If you want to learn other ways to approach making things in Gravity Sketch and just get generally inspired. So yeah, I just want to thank everybody out there that's been watching us live. And if you joined a little bit late, this will be available as soon as the live is over. You can go back and rewind it, watch it from the beginning. Yeah, thank you so much, Eric. And thank you, Henrik, and thank you, Jesse, for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Extremely nice demo. Thank you.
Awesome.
A little model over here as well.
Sweet. Well, thank you, everybody. And we're going to be signing off, and see you next time.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
See you soon.